Welcome back. Episode 28 of Griddyiron Gang. What we got for you today is a Week 13 recap. We'll start it with the Thursday night recap, where the Buffalo Bills went on the road to New England and faced the Patriots. Buffalo ended up getting their first division win of the season and their third win in a row over the New England Patriots. After what transpired on Sunday, they are now the number one seed in the AFC. One of those poo-poo Thursday night football games that you mention every week. This one, falls right into that category. 24-10. But this is really a dominant game by Buffalo. The scoreboard really doesn't do it justice. On the other side of things, New England falls to 6-6. They are now 8th in the AFC, tied with the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 9th in the AFC. So still in the playoff hunt, but they have a lot of problems over there. A lot of things for Bill Belichick to try and work out. This offense is really the issue right now. The defense held up okay. Josh Allen didn't really have a big game. Buffalo did utilize that run a little bit more, had over 4 yards per carry. And New England's defense usually is the calling card over there. But without Tom, it has been ugly. Cam Newton wasn't great. Mac Jones had an okay rookie year, but right now he is really regressing. And I don't know what Bill Belichick is going to do to turn the season around right now.
Yeah, no, I at this point, I just think they're pretty much done. I know there's a lot of time left in the season to secure a wild card spot, but I just don't foresee that happening. I just think that there's too much going wrong in New England right now. It's not looking like everything's on the same page. And they're not a team I want to see in the playoffs. It's just that the last two seeds in both conferences are just kind of blah. It's just not exciting. But yeah, it's total domination, but from Buffalo, 38 minutes, 8 seconds time possession to New England's 21 minutes, 52 seconds. So I think Buffalo's starting to utilize this run game a lot more. They're trying to take advantage of opposing teams lining up in the nickel and dime formations, trying to catch them off guard, not having too many in the box for the defensive front, but Tre'Davious White's a huge boost to that backfield, the defensive backfield for Buffalo. I think we're in the crucial time of the season now where we're coming down the stretch. You're playing for seeding, home field advantage. I think they're back to being the number one seed in the AFC. It feels like things are starting to get back to what we're used to with Buffalo, and I think that we're going to start seeing them, solidify that top spot alongside Kansas City as two top teams in the NFL. Obviously, there's a couple of teams in the NFC side that have something to say about that, but I just think across the board, I do trust Kansas City and Buffalo the most out of any team right now. I was talking up 49ers quite a bit, but that changes with Jimmy G's injury now, and we'll get to that. But, I think it was just complete domination. Not much else needs to be said about this game, really.
I'm cool moving on because this is, New England put out a showing that I don't want to talk about either. We had all the NFC North teams playing at noon, the first of which we had Jacksonville on the road at Detroit. Speaking of Buffalo, last week I said Detroit might have had their best game of the week or best game of the year playing against Buffalo on Thanksgiving, but I think this game against Jacksonville took the cake. They dominated this one 14-40. The offense scored on their first 8 possessions, 5 in the first half and 3 to start the second half. This defense is really the story for me, though. They really showed up to play these last few weeks, holding Jacksonville to 14 points. Obviously, we know Trevor Lawrence, former number 1 overall pick. They paid a lot of money to the receiver out there, Christian Kirk. So we expect a lot more than 14 points from this offense. They got Etienne back, who's an explosive running back in the backfield. So Detroit, really impressive on the defensive side of the ball. 40 points. We saw in week 1 against a team who we expect to go to the NFC Championship game to, at least Philadelphia. They had, mid-30s in that game. So we know this team is capable. For the first few weeks of the season, they were leading the league in points. So we know this team is capable. Defensively, though, I'm going to keep harping on that. They finally starting to get on the right page. They made some changes in that coaching staff on that side, and it's starting to all come together for Dan Campbell and the Lions over there.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is their defense is starting to play really well. Trevor Lawrence, he had a game to forget pretty much, and we need to see more, consistency from him game to game. I think there's too many, hits and misses from him right now. I do have confidence that he, solidifies himself as a, one of the better quarterbacks in this league, but it's just, I think they need a lot more, playmakers on offense and defense, to get this team to where they want to be. But it's still not the type of game you'd expect from Trevor Lawrence, especially against this Detroit defense. And like I said, credit to Detroit's defense for playing, much better the past couple games. But at the same time, they still are what they are. There's not too many big names over there. I think, they've shown all year long that they're very beatable. But, once you start playing together as a team, the things start to change a little bit. And I think, that's one thing I like about Dan Campbell and this team is, they don't give up on them. They don't just write off the season. They're still battling. They're still fighting. And that's very respectable from them. And they're a team to watch out for, with these final two spots in the NFC wildcard race. It's, I think they're only 2 spots out from that final spot. So, they still have a shot. And that's what makes me, nervous about this weekend against the Vikings is, that this is a hat and t-shirt game for us. We win the division. We lose. Well, we're talking about, us losing to the Lions and the Lions all of a sudden becoming a playoff team. So, I mean, it's a big game this weekend in the NFC North. But this was, another complete domination performance, this time by Detroit. Like you said, didn't punt once. I mean, they had 437 yards on offense and 31 first downs. That's crazy. And Amon-Ra St. Brown he continues to torch defenses, getting wide open consistently and converting on big third downs. It's going to get interesting going forward because now that they got Jameson Williams coming back, he got his feet wet a little bit yesterday with like 8 plays, I think. But, it's going to be – it should be a fun thing to watch going forward with those two lining up next to each other.
Yes, Williams made his debut. Didn't do much. 8 plays, like you mentioned. St. Brown went over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Chark, 2 yards away from 100. Williams and Swift had a touchdown each. Goff maybe had his best game since his 5 touchdown outing since, 2019 or something like that. 31 of 41, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. This was just a complete game from Detroit, complete domination, and they're clicking at the right time.
Yeah. They're a team you don't want to mess with going, getting down to the wire here. I mean, those are the scariest teams. I say that all the time. They're starting to feel themselves where you're either trying to hold on to where you're at or, you're still trying to make a push, and they're gaining confidence at the right time. And teams don't want to see that because, and like you said, with Jared Goff's numbers the way they were yesterday, if I just look at that stat line and don't know how the game went, I say the Lions win that game because if a quarterback does that, especially Goff, they had to have won the game.
Mm-hmm. By 26 points? A little excessive, but you would think it was a big game offensively if you see that stat line for sure. Green Bay at Chicago. You were close, but I still fucking own you. Green Bay was down 19-10 going into the fourth. Outscored Chicago 18-0 in the fourth to take a 28-19 victory. But the thing is, they kind of did it without Rodgers. Had a field goal. They had a couple defensive plays that were big. Reverse, that was big. I mean, your boy, you hated on him early in the season, but Watson seems to be becoming a really good player.
That's the first thing. That's the first thing I have under this game, dude. Is I was going to ask you, is Christian Watson going to be a real thing for real?
He's making some good plays. He's making some good catches. I will give him that. Some contested catches. His speed is separating him from defenses. I don't know if he's always going to be utilized in that way, where that's going to be advantageous for them. Without Rodgers, it's going to be really scary because I don't know if he's going to be around there for that long. So
I don't know. I think based on what I see in this sample size we have, I don't think it's going to be a real thing as a true wide receiver. I think it's more of a gadget player. Like
he's raw. Yeah, he's a gadget player for sure right now. He's raw. He's not the best route runner. His hands still are shaky. He does drop a lot of open passes, even though I did say he makes some good contested catches, but he has a lot of work to do. But this is encouraging for him, for sure. I think 9 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks.
It's impressive for sure. But
yeah, he's for sure Rodgers' number one weapon right now. He's going to him on 4th down. So, I mean, he's seeming to gain a little bit of that trust back after that drop against PP week 1.
Yeah.
But back to the game. Chicago let another close one slip away, man. I think they are now 6 games. They have 1-score games, and I don't know if they've won. I think they're I guess they'd have to be 3-3.
Oh, you're talking about, okay. In those games you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, in those games. I could be wrong on that, but Fields, I mean, he's progressing well. He was 20 for 25. No touchdowns, did have 2 interceptions. We know he's a threat on the ground, but him and Rodgers, we weren't sure if they were going to come into the game healthy. We weren't sure if they were going to play this week. Both those guys ended up giving it a go. Who do you think looked better in this game, Fields or Rodgers?
I'm going to take Fields. I just thought, besides those 2 interceptions, that he was playing really well and he was commanding that game for the most part. The Bears just had too many costly mistakes that they couldn't overcome. They shot themselves in the foot over and over again. They had this game in the bag and they just let it slip away. And so, that's the kind of thing you expect from a team who's in complete rebuild mode, doesn't have many playmakers or firepower on either side of the ball. It's, right now it's just, they're getting done what they can get done because of Fields, and that's props to him. So, and I think, what was the stat that I had here? He's the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era to run for a TD in 6 straight games. So that's, props to him. He knows, it's looking like he knows what his strength is in his game, and he's utilizing that to the best of his ability. I think if you get more, off-season work and practice in with the passing game, accuracy, reading the field a little bit more, that he could turn into more of the complete quarterback that teams look for. But right now you just got to play to his strengths and scheme the offense to, what he can do best. So, and they're doing a good job of that right now. But with this Packers team, I don't know, man. It sounds like, they're more worried about still owning the Chicago Bears than getting to the playoffs at this point. But I just want to make note, this dude by the name of Jair Alexander, who everyone talks up so much. This dude is getting picked on every freaking game we watch. He allowed 6 catches on 7 targets yesterday for 128 yards. He did have a clutch interception towards the end there, but this dude, teams are not afraid of this guy. They pick on him each week, and it seems like he's not worth the money they paid him. So he's very disappointing this year.
Yeah, we mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown had 114 and 2 touchdowns. His brother had 3 for 85. So nobody is really stopping anybody in this game on either side except for those 2 turnovers. But outside of that, Chicago was really doing anything they wanted to against this Green Bay defense. Luckily, they were able to get those turnovers, or else they wouldn't be victorious in this game, in my opinion. I think Chicago, even with the lack of talent, not even considering the guys that they have down due to injury, I think Chicago might have been a better team than Green Bay. But
I at this point would argue that Green Bay is the worst team in the division. I kind of chuckled and laughed yesterday when I said, wouldn't that be something if Green Bay finished last in the division? It just, when you think about it, they just haven't played well all year. It seems like, I don't know what the right terms or words I should use for this, but it's just, I don't see it getting better anytime soon out there. So
they're one of those teams that has a lot of questions to answer going into
it's all going to depend on how this offseason unfolds for them.
It really
is. I really think the biggest thing you go into this offseason trying to figure out is, do we move forward with Rodgers or without him? Because at this point, it just seems like it's too much of a toxic relationship to continue to build your team into the future for more success. And I just don't think they can do that with him on the roster.
It's a fair point. If they have their pick this year, they'll have a decent pick. Maybe they have a quarterback already. Shit, I forgot about him. Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. It's not a good position to be in right now. We can finish the NFC North right here. We have the New York Jets on the road at Minnesota. Another close game that went down to the wire. Another close game that went down to the last possession. A goal line score for New York really put them back in this game. But then the goal line stopped for Minnesota, and a game-winning interception sealed the victory for you guys. After you were up 20-3, you saw the Jets chip away at that lead. They got it to 20-15 before you guys put your foot down and say, hey, we really have to step up, wake up, win this game. So what'd you see from this Minnesota Vikings team this past Sunday?
Well, first, it's, the 9th victory on the season, decided by one score. I can't remember the last team who's ever won 9 games in a season decided by one score. That's just insane to me. But
I don't know.
We're happy. We're here with it, and I guess we're just gonna ride it out. I don't know. I just what can you say? It's just another week in the Vikings fandom. The 2 huge red zone stands to close this one out. I mean, it was just that's big time by the defense. I mean, they're still giving up a lot of yards. Shoot, I know Mike White passed 57 times, but he still, almost had 400 yards passing. Garrett Wilson, he's going to be a big name in this league for, years to come at this point in time. There's just no excuse to only win this game by 5 points. You're up 20-3 at one point, and that's truly when you need to put your foot on the gas and put teams away. Like, there's just no excuse for letting teams back in the game and only winning by 5 points. It's I don't know. Like I told you before, I never got the feeling watching this game that we were ever going to lose, even though it was frustrating at times. It was ugly at times. But I guess that might be the calmness of this damn Vikings team rubbing off on me, because, I mean, I didn't fear the late game heroics once again. I didn't fear it coming down to the wire. It just that's the thing about this team right now is, especially the defense, when plays are needed to be made, they go make them, and that's that's all you can ask for in close games, is just go out there, make a play, and close the door. But I don't know. It's credit to the Jets team, though. Their defense was really dominant, especially in the second half. And they were just showing why they are one of the top defenses in the NFL. I mean, Robert Saleh's got these guys. I mean, if they start slow, they finish fast. I don't know. If they had a quarterback, if they had a good quarterback, they'd probably win that game. I would say. I'm not shitting on Mike White and what he's done so far in his career, but it's just, I don't think he's the answer either. They got to, I think, solidify that position somehow, one way or the other. Because that's a game I don't know. I don't know where to go with it, because you're up 20-3 1 point. At that point in time, you're saying we're smashing this team. But then when you let them back in the game, and they go and make their stretch of plays and come back, and it's a credit to them for battling. But I don't. That most times they would probably win that game if they make a comeback like that. They just didn't have, I think, the right quarterback. It's just what it comes down to. But I think there was, another thing I hated to see was there were only the 3 offensive drives for the Vikings that went for a combined 235 yards, but the other 9 possessions in the game only went for 53. Like, that's putrid. And this is the shit I'm talking about. Is like, we are so inconsistent every Sunday, and it's just getting frustrating, because we always, every game after every game, it never fails. You always hear or see some fans say, just imagine what this team would be like if we put it all together. Well, we've had 12 games now.
3 months.
I don't know if we're ever going to see that. I mean, because it's just, as much as I like O'Connell, I think he's so raw as being a head coach still, because it shows in his play calling. I just think that he'll go on great stretches of play calling, but then he hits this lull or this bump in the road where he can't get out of a funk for handful of possessions, and it's just not adding up. I'm just at a loss for words for even what to say about it. It's just with Kevin O'Connell. I mean, I think it just comes down to him being more consistent as a coach too. It's frustrating to watch because this team can put on great performance after great performance, but during those performances, we also look highly questionable and very average at best. If one side of the ball is doing great, the other side's not doing well, and that's not going to win games most of the time. It's just not. So it's. I mean, if I look at the stat sheet in this game, just without watching it, like I would have said, hey, the Jets won this game probably. I mean, they more than doubled us in total yardage, I think. And, if I think what helped us is their defense kind of started slow, even though we were in that, Kirk Cousins starting 1 of 8 for 4 yards, which is ugly as shit. But, if their defense plays a whole game like they did the second half, it's probably talking about a different game because we definitely started very slow on offense, couldn't get out of a funk for a while. I think it wasn't until that drive leading up to halftime where we really, started, doing something with our getting in the red zone, punching it in with Dalvin and Alexander. It just was anything JJ did. He had a couple great contested catches over the middle where that was like, I don't understand. That's a cheat code right there. Just the stuff he was doing was insane, but it's just, I think for 3 quarters they shut out Adam Thielen, which I think Sauce covered in most of the game. So that goes to show you right there how good Sauce is. I mean, that one side of the field was always shut down the whole game, and it was damn near his side. So they were trying to do everything they could to get Jefferson in motion and get him out, off of him. But at the same time, they still had safety help. DJ Reed played. I mean, he held quite a bit yesterday, but I thought he played a decent game. Their defense is all around. I mean, it starts with that pass rush they have up front with the Jets. It's just they got playmakers on that side of the ball like crazy. And, if they don't have Mike Carter or Breece Hall injured, they're going to be more potent against us in the run game for sure, even though Zonovan Knight, he had a decent game, I think. But I think you add Carter or Hall in there, and it's even better probably.
Yeah, that's some real trouble.
So I don't know, man. It was just kind of like a pedestrian game from the Vikings on offense. We couldn't sustain anything. We couldn't get anything going. I don't know. For me right now, I just don't think this Vikings team is a Super Bowl team. And maybe that's me being too harsh on them, but it just seems like this record is very inflated this year based on a lot of luck going our way. And normally as a Vikings fan, I'm not talking like this, but it's just me trying to be a realist and see it for what it is. They're not as diehard as I am as a Vikings fan. It's just they're not very believable right now as a team that I trust to make a run in the playoffs or go to the Super Bowl. The season is set up for having a great record and then being another ending in heartbreak all over again. So that's why I'm trying to be more realistic and keep my hopes not too high in the sky. I don't know, man. It's just I love the record. I love watching this team, but to finish out the season, I think we got, 5 games left? I need to see at least 3 of those games be victories that are very, 3 very convincing victories.
Especially with the easiest schedule remaining.
Like, you got to have at least 3 out of 5 games where you convincingly win and prove people that you can put teams away. Because it's just, if we go on and we either lose 1 or 2 of these or we win all of them and they're all by 1 score, it's just, come on, dude. Like, it's a long year of winning, but the playoffs are a different beast.
Yeah, I think we probably feel the same about our teams right now, but you're probably a little more optimistic than I am at the moment. 9-0 in close games is an anomaly that's not sustainable, but it's very impressive, and you have to tip your hat to that for sure. Your offensive struggles or inconsistencies, that's an issue. You can chalk some of that up to the Jets. You did start fast, you kind of slowed down towards the end, but not being able to, be consistent on offense, you allow a 23 lead to get chipped down to 2015. And fortunately for you, the Jets weren't able to capitalize because even though Mike White did throw for 369 yards, he wasn't able to score a touchdown. He did throw 2 interceptions. He did have a rushing touchdown, but when you're not able to punch those in, at least one of those, I mean, you're not going to win the game. There's not enough possessions unless you're creating a multitude of turnovers, and you weren't able to do that. Even though Kirk was struggling, we know he's going to take care of the ball no matter what. So, Jets, like you said, if they had average quarterback, they win this game. If they had 2 of their running backs instead of an average quarterback, this game's a lot closer as well. So, definitely something on the Viking side you want to keep an eye on is finishing these games out, finishing the season out strong for sure. Easiest schedule remaining, 3 games blown out. I'd like to see that too. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm what else can I say? I've been saying the same shit over and over again every week. It's just, a never ending. It's a revolving door. I love this team to death, but at the same time, it's just it's kind of the worst part about it when things are going really well record wise and getting wins. Like when you can still bitch about everything. Like I hate doing that, but it's like, let's be realistic, dude. There's so many, fairy tale Vikings fans that think this is like terrific. And it's like, let's start peeling those layers back, bro, because once we hit the playoffs, that's a whole different season. And this team doesn't look like a team who can last that long. I mean, can you go punch for punch with Philly? I don't know. Like, that better be in the playoffs, every game has to be your best game of the season. And I don't know if we're capable of that for another 4 weeks.
Fair point. Moving on from the NFC North, we'll go to the AFC North. We had Cleveland on the road at Houston. Deshaun Watson was making his return against his former team, his first game in 700 days, and boy, did it look like it. That man was rusty. Cleveland was able to score 27 points, but none of those were because of Deshaun Watson. They did not score 1 offensive touchdown. After a safety put the Houston Texans up 5-0, Donovan Peoples-Jones had a punt return, put them up 7-5, and a couple defensive scores, along with a couple field goals, gave this Browns team 27-14 victory over the Houston Texans. Allen was in there again for Davis Mills, and he is struggling, right around 50% on 39 attempts, 200 yards, touchdown, and 2 picks. And he did lose a fumbling the ball twice. So I know they wanted to see what they had in Kyle Allen. They saw it, and they should probably get Davis Mills back in there. But I guess at this point, you're 110-1. You are one of the 2 teams mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, along with the Chicago Bears. Both of you guys have 10 losses, so I guess you want to keep piling up those wins, try and get that number 1 pick. But you do want to be competitive in these games still. I mean, that's something that a lot of these guys, at least I would, if I was on the team, I wouldn't want to be losing these games 27-14 to a team that doesn't have an offensive touchdown. I don't care if we're going to get the number 1 pick next year. I might not be there. I still want to be competitive. I hate to lose. This is just not a good look for this Houston team.
No, that's a great point because these players have different viewpoints than the front office. Like
yes,
front
indeed.
office views the season and their team and the organization through one whole different lens. The players are trying to get wins, trying to make their stats good. I mean, this is a league where it's like players are forgotten about the next day. Like teams are in it for the team, the organization. So when you get these players on the team, especially in a bad team like this, it's hard to care, but at the same time you still care because you're out there, sacrificing your body and I mean, you are making good money, but the amount of shit that goes into it with, treatment and taking care of your body, it's hard work, bro. It's so it can be frustrating. I get that, but they definitely do look like a team they continue to look like a team that they're just getting ready for April's draft. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. They're just not that good. Not too many star players to talk about, really. Lovie Smith, Bad situation for you, bro, but it's gonna come to an end soon.
Yeah, man. This is usually a team I do have some praise for. They are void of talent, but they play hard and they're competitive. This game, they were not competitive at all. They let this Browns team.
Well, and it's just sad because a game where you're playing your former quarterback and he's rusty as all hell, couldn't do shit, and I mean, they still lose by double digits. That's the tough pill to swallow because you look at the stats and it looks like the defense did its job for the most part.
They did.
It's just it came down to the Browns' defense and special teams, and it's tough, bro. It's tough, but I don't know. There's not much to take away from it for me in this game. Besides, I mean, this is Deshaun's week 1 after 2 years. So It's like it's going to take a while to get him back. I think this is just a ramp up period towards 2023.
I guess to that point, though, I'm going to come over to your place tomorrow. We're going to record our episode for week 14. If we went out in the yard and you threw me a slant, you think you could hit me in the numbers, or are you going to throw it at my ankles? Because he was throwing a lot of balls in the dirt yesterday, and I feel like I could go out there right now, throw a 15-yard slant. It might not get there as fast as Deshaun's would, but it's going to hit you in the numbers. I might have a little Tua arm, but
it's easier said than done, bro. Because I mean, I know playing football and baseball growing up, when you're in the midst of practicing all the time and training for it, I could see which he should be doing still. So I don't think there's any excuse for him to go out there and not be able to do that. But if you're talking about me getting up off the couch, middle of winter, going out to the front yard, picking up a ball, I know I can already see it. I'm gonna miss the numbers and be like, God damn, I'm my shoulder's stiff, bro. It just, did you hear that crack? Like, I mean, so
30 has not been nice.
But for him to still be training year round, he's been out of I think he hasn't been allowed into the facility, right, for these 11 weeks. Correct?
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's still out there throwing to somebody. So, I don't think there's a big difference really without shoulder pads. Shoulder pads or not, it shouldn't matter.
Right.
Like when you're a professional quarterback, I think more so it comes down to not having the amount of reps you need with those receivers out there and that timing with how they run their routes and what they like to run. And that part, I think, is what kind of led to that. But yeah, just to go out there and, if you're playing street football, shoot, you should be able to hit them like in the numbers. If you're training, bro, like, I don't know. It's just gonna, with everything he's been going on mentally and emotionally with all the shit in the background, I don't know. I didn't expect a whole lot from him this game. Well, it's not like I expected an MVP performance, but I know, I think once we hit next year, beginning of next year's season, we'll start seeing that and remembering why, like Deshaun was putting up those numbers before.
I agree with that. It will take some time. And before the season, if he were to be starting, I would have had him as my top 6 or 7 quarterback. So
no,
he's definitely a guy who I believe in his ability for sure.
At the same time, after watching this game, if you still think that your team has a shot at the playoffs and you're not trying to tank and miss out on the playoffs for a draft pick, I would consider keeping Jacoby in there.
You can't. You already went back to Deshaun.
No, I'm not saying you pull him again and do. I'm just saying I would have really thought about that because let's be real, like y'all know Deshaun's going to come in rusty. The only reason he's starting first week he's able to is because of all the money you're paying him. Like, and what you're trying to make him that face of their franchise. Like, that's why he's in there. Realistically, though, if you're thinking about it from a logical standpoint, unless you're like having a bad season or, you have a really good record where you're kind of already in the playoffs, that's my only reason why maybe I would have put him in there because, if we get him enough reps before the playoff time, then hey, he'll be good to go probably. But right now it's like you're kind of on that cusp or on that edge where I don't think they do make the playoffs, but I don't know. I just think it's hard. It's hard because I have a lot of respect for Jacoby and what he did for this team, obviously, and every team he's gone to like pretty much be a very good backup. Like, I mean, he gets his shots, but it gets taken away right away. So it's just hard to, But I think this year was probably his best year, starting.
I agree.
But it's tough. I mean, I think, you got to play Watson, obviously, with the money you paid him and him being the face of the franchise going forward. But at the same time, it's just, man, I guess, if anything does happen to Deshaun, you still got Jacoby. So that's the bright spot. But at the same time, I don't know, man. It's kind of, hopefully he can knock the rust off quicker than we anticipate. But because it's not fun watching Deshaun put up these type of numbers.
No, that game wasn't fun at all to watch. Another game that wasn't fun to watch was Denver on the road at Baltimore. Easily the worst game of the week. For me, it was the worst game to be invested in. It was the worst game to be a part of. Great defense on the Broncos side versus struggling offense on our side. We had 19 total points, 13 total punts. I feel like every Broncos game has a stat line similar to that one right there. Lamar goes down, end of the first quarter. When he goes down, he's 3 for 4, 11 yards, 2 sacks, 1 rush for 9 yards. So our offense was stagnant, to say the least. We had a few promising drives later in the game with Tyler Huntley in there. We were down 6-3, but he was facing some pressure. Throws a pick to Justin Simmons, put them in field goal range. They go up 9-3. We are in field goal range. We run a trick play. I see Kenyon Drake run from right to left, from left to right. He gets the ball. The timing is off. These guys run into each other at the mesh point. They run a reverse pass. Prochet throws it. And if you pause it when he's throwing it, this man looks like Geno Smith, man. He's throwing that bitch with confidence like you've never seen a wide receiver throw football. When they pan down the screen, they pan down the field, all you see on the screen is 4 Broncos defenders in the end zone, and Justin Simmons gets the second interception of the day. So that was pretty much, that put my blood pressure through the roof right there. But a long fourth quarter drive for Tyler Huntley, 2 fourth-down conversions, and a touchdown with 31 seconds left put Baltimore up 10-9. Denver ended up with 2 timeouts left and a lot of time to end up in field goal range. Got a couple plays that they wanted, got the kick that they wanted. It ended up a little bit short, and Baltimore escaped by the skin of their teeth at home. Not been playing well at home this year. Not been playing well on the road, but they get away with this W, 8-4 on the season. Denver now 3-9, and I saw a stat today that if Denver would score 18 points in all their games so far this season, they would only have 2 losses. So that just tells you how abysmal their offense has been this season. 18 points is not hard to come by, even though there's 19 total in this game.
No, I mean, I think it's such a waste of a good year this defense is having. Thanks to Hackett and his offense and even the way Russell's been playing, it's just, I can't believe they made us suffer. I think it was like 5 weeks to start the season of primetime Bronco football.
Prime time.
I know they expected something totally different, but to have to sit through 5 weeks of that to start the season, man, that's rough. I don't know. I don't have much in this game. I let you do your thing with Baltimore. I just, I think, I don't know, man. I don't have the answer for you. I don't know what. It's frustrating when this Baltimore team is a very good team. It's just they got to go into this offseason figuring out how do we make this team better with better playmakers. We can't keep diving into these older free agents and hoping these rookie receivers become the next big thing. It's just. Unless you get a surefire like wide receiver 1 in round 1, go for it. But I don't know, man. It's just
if we're
Lamar needs help.
The future situation, it's really bleak. Honestly, we're gonna have to either pay Lamar, franchise him. Our whole D line is Calais Campbell. They're all old guys. Pierre Paul, Justin Houston. They're all old guys that are on their last year, second to last year.
Do you, as a Ravens fan, say Lamar doesn't get re-signed,
Uh-huh.
Does that signal a rebuild?
I don't think we're a rebuild kind of team, but with what I was just mentioning, that probably would signify that. Where would we go though? Because right now we are the 3 seed in the AFC, so we would have to lose.
Right.
I mean, like we did last year, we'd have to lose our last 5-6 games.
And I don't think Lamar's going to be out that long. He's maybe a couple weeks at most, but it's not season ending.
See, nor do I think that he would be able to win us these football games either, though. I mean, I'm gonna have to do an exercise tonight and come up with some stats for you tomorrow. But I know
that's what I struggle with Baltimore.
Huh?
That's what I struggle with Baltimore. That's what I struggle with Baltimore and Lamar. Like the way the team is set up with and when Lamar's in the game, like they should be able to withstand adversity and be able to go out and beat teams the way that we're used to seeing. But it's just I don't see enough from Lamar. I mean, like I said, we all know he needs help out there more than what he's got. But at the same time, it's like where elite quarterbacks differ, they still go out there and make their team better. And I mean, have we seen that enough from Lamar to justify this contract he's asking for?
See, Lamar's in a very tough situation because the offensive scheme that he's in it limits his ability so much. If he's a running quarterback, I understand we have a running offense, but we're always 2 tight ends, 1 receiver, maybe 2 receivers. There's just not a lot of opportunities in the pass game. So you limit him to what he can do. He's going to have 220 pass yards a game. And if your run game isn't 5 yards per carry, we're going to be very limited in what we can do as well. Not just him, us as a team. Right. So that's something I want to look at going forward in this offseason is if Greg Roman's going to switch up the scheme a little bit or if we get a new OC in there who's going to open things up. We're the fucking Big Ten Golden Gophers, bro. We run power eye, pistol. Like we're not going to win that way. We're not.
That's why y'all drafted Bateman. You thought he would fit right in.
You know what? It's all coming together now. If they did it over there, you can do it over here too. But that's who we are, man. That's not going to get the job done. We don't have Derrick Henry. We're on our 3rd string running back. Gus Edwards isn't healthy. That's just not the way for us to go, man. And that's what we've been used to with Lamar under center. So,
yeah.
It seems like we open it up a little bit more, at least with the quick pass game. I don't know if that's just Huntley making those passes and Lamar not reading that because, you know, he knows his ability. He can get out of those sacks for the most part. But it works a little better under Huntley in the short game. He seems a little more confident in the mid game as well. But that deep ball, I don't think either of those guys really have that aspect right now.
See, I also read a stat today that I found interesting. When Huntley went in for your Lamar yesterday, he finished the game with, I think, 47% of his passes going outside the numbers. Whereas for the season, Lamar has thrown outside the numbers only 34%.
He's probably thrown outside the numbers 47 times his whole damn career.
So I found that pretty interesting, though, honestly. Like
that opens up so much, though, just that right there off the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat. That's yeah. Denver's 3-7 in 1-score games. Baltimore's now 4-4. Both quarterbacks, Tyler Huntley and Russell Wilson, had 5 incompletions, and both had under 200 yards. So a defensive battle on both sides of the ball. Huntley did finish with 10 rushes for 41 yards as well, and that game-winning touchdown. So he was efficient in his passing. I don't have the numbers on hand, but not a lot of yards, like we said, under 200. But in the amount of attempts he had, he was efficient. So I can take that. He did have a bad throw on a bad decision off a rush, but I don't know. We saw what he could do last year, so I think this team has confidence in what he can do going forward. Similar to the 49ers when they lose their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They can produce well and they're successful, but Huntley didn't win a lot of games, and neither did Mullins or Beathard, any of those guys out there when Garoppolo went down. So something I'll be keeping my eye on for sure.
And now, as it stands over playoffs, I think you guys are 3rd seed, right? And I
Yep.
think now Miami's 6th seed, so that's a good first round matchup for you if they have to come up there.
Hey, if they got to come to the cold, we are going to lose that 3rd seed. We are probably going to be the 6th seed, and we'll be playing Cincinnati, unfortunately.
Damn, so you end the season against them and then have to go on the road to face
End
them
the season
again.
and the season. Yep. That's what we're going to do.
Man,
Pittsburgh at Atlanta. We had Steelers get their first win streak of the season, 2 wins in a row now. It's the TJ Watt effect because this defense was all over the place against this Atlanta pass offense. We know the rushing offense for Atlanta is really what they like to hang their hat on, but Pittsburgh's just tough, man. They're dominant on the aspect, man. They don't let you get anything easy. They win this game 19-16. I would say it's time for Ritter, but the NFC South is so bad. You got to keep Mariota in there right now because you still have a chance to win that division. A lot of that's going to change tonight when New Orleans plays Tampa Bay. I think that game is kicked off already, so we'll give you guys an update on that one at the end of this show. But Pickett, that's really the story for me. I saw a couple just about a half of this game in and out. He was fairly good with his decision making. No turnovers in this game. There's a play that I liked where he pumped when the DB jumped the route and he kept control of the ball and he made a nice play afterwards. And I really think his maturity and his progression is coming along nicely in this league so far. He has one of the best mentors in the league, I would assume, and Mike Tomlin. So I don't know, man. Pittsburgh's going to be a scary game for us next week. I'll say that.
I think they kind of give me they're kind of giving me those Detroit Lions vibes, the AFC version. But I think they're continuously getting better each week, I think. And I think once they're able to consistently like stretch the field more on offense, that's when we'll see them be more of a, back to a contending team in this league. They're just missing that one aspect of being able to stretch the field, because right now it's just they're leaning on that run game and then trying to have Pickett game manage where he's not making mistakes and he's just getting it to the open guys. He's not really taking too many shots. So if he's able to get to that point where he can, I think Pickett's gonna turn into a very good steady quarterback in this league. I'm not saying he'll be elite by any means, but he'll be I think we said it last week, kind of like a Jimmy G almost type of guy. But Falcons side of the ball, man, Mariota, he's just so limited in the pass game as a passer. It continues to grow more frustrating to watch him as the season goes on. And I'm sure like you said, you probably can't turn to Ritter right now, and I'm not even sure how much better Ritter can be, but at the same time, it might be worth within the next few weeks, depending on how this thing shake out, just start turning things over to him and getting him a shot in there. Mariota is clearly not the answer. You drafted Ritter for a reason, so depending on how the where you fall in being eliminated scenario, that got to start thinking about Ritter at some point, I believe. But a stat that I did find interesting though about Kenny Pickett was he was 11 of 16 for 151 yards and a touchdown versus zone coverage, but was only 3 of 10 for 37 yards versus man coverage.
Well, throwing to open guys makes sense. So he can read the defense, he just can't make the play.
I guess. I mean, he's still, it's just the developing, the stage for him right now. It's just, but like I said, I've always said he went to the perfect spot for him because I think Mike Tomlin's the perfect coach to learn under, even though he's a defensive guy. But that, when you as a quarterback get drafted to a situation or brought into a situation where your head coach is a defensive, guy like Zimmer or Tomlin or Belichick or whatever, like they see the field so much differently than a quarterback. So they're helping you in your game dissect these defenses that they're able to, see on film and stuff that you don't see or anticipate that they can teach you that an offensive coach might not be able to.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a unique situation for sure. I know a lot of the times we want these guys to come into situations where they're with an offensive mastermind because, like you said, what is Zimmer going to do for let's say, a Kirk Cousins if he was a rookie. And we saw what he did for Kellen Mond. He didn't have any time of day for that guy. So, I mean, there are some cases where it works opposite ways too, but I just think it's a unique situation with Mike Tomlin and this organization, the culture they have and everything like that. So it's just a perfect situation for Pickett to fall into. Our last game at noon, we had Washington at New York. Giants went down 10-0 early, but fought back. Saquon had a big first half, and they ended up tying this game 10-10, I believe. Heineke ended up leading a 90-yard touchdown drive with just under 2 minutes left to end up tying this game at 20 before the end of regulation. These teams go to overtime, and nobody scores in the overtime. A 58-yard field goal attempt as time expires falls short, and we have our second tie of the season, both ties ending at 20-20. The first one was week 1, I think, Indianapolis versus the Texans. If it wasn't week 1, it was week 2. This game, I mean, shit, pretty evenly matched teams. A tie kind of seems right. I did think Washington was going to end up pulling this one out at the end, though, especially after that big drive they had to finish out regulation. But credit to the Giants, didn't give up that momentum completely in overtime. Obviously, you would like to score. You had the chance for that field goal at the end. You weren't able to capitalize, but I guess a loss isn't as good as a tie, or a tie isn't as bad as a loss, however you want to look at it. But Washington, I guess, keeps their win streak alive. 5 of their last 6, I guess you could say. Good for them. And New York ends their losing streak, so on to week 14 we go.
Let me just be the first on here to say, I just don't think there should be ties in the NFL. I
agree.
Someone's got to win the game. This total tie
Even
shit.
If you want to do it like college, put them at the 25 or something.
Yeah, bro, and keep going until someone gets stopped. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think it takes. I don't know how to explain it, but it takes a certain type of special to be able to go a whole quarter without scoring either team. I mean, twice this season. It's just unreal, bro. But to me, I think both these teams will be the least interesting playoff teams out there if they do make the playoffs. Think they might give teams headaches, obviously, but at the same time, just who wants to see the Giants and Commanders battle in the playoffs? This, maybe against each other, but against other teams, give me someone else. I just don't. Give me the Seahawks. Give me, whatever. I just don't want Washington or the Giants. I just think they're in a situation where they're playing in a really good division right now, and their records say they're, decent. But at the same time, it's just how they're not going to get past anyone significant in the NFC. That's what frustrates me. There are two teams who don't have a legitimate shot at going to the NFC title game.
They're very limited in what they can do offensively. They're really going to have to rely on their defense to make some turnovers, some big stops. But yeah, man, I mean, they can win some regular season games. They can scare some teams in the playoffs, but I don't see them beating anybody outside of each other in the NFC. Maybe Tampa Bay. Because Tampa Bay,
maybe. Yeah, we know how that's going.
Yeah. Seattle, too. Seattle don't play no damn defense. So, there's always a chance. Matchups and coaching are very important in the playoffs. Moving on to the afternoon.
What it comes down to.
Yeah, it does.
No, I was saying that's what it comes down to. I mean, I was going to mention something to you about, I think we have one more noon game. Did we cover Tennessee, Philadelphia?
We didn't. So Tennessee on the road at Philadelphia. Off memory, this was 10-35. Jalen Hurts showed out. I think he had 3 touchdowns, and he had 1 on the ground, accounting for 4 total touchdowns. But you called this one, man. I asked you if it was going to be a big rush game. You said, I don't know, man. I feel like A.J. Brown's going to go ahead and put some foot in some ass. And he put some foot in some ass, and he did it over and over again at home, or his former home in Tennessee. So Philly looks dominant, man. They did it in all facets of the game. God. They really didn't have to utilize their run game, even though that's probably been their biggest strength so far this season. But to do that against this Tennessee team, who we know is very solid on the defensive side of the football, We know Vrabel's a good coach. Very impressive, man. Very impressive.
It was a very impressive, convincing win by Philly. Like, there's no other way to go around it. And it make, and like I said about, I was pounding the table for 49ers the past 2-3 weeks. We'll get to their game, obviously, with Jimmy G going down. But I think that situation changes it up, I think. I don't know if there's a team in the NFC that can go punch for punch with Philly. I just, at this point, I don't see it. Maybe the Cowboys with their defense, but I don't think their offense can go toe to toe with Philly's offense, and that's what it comes down to in that type of game. Vikings, it's going to have to be a high scoring match for us to even come close against Cowboys or Eagles, I think, because we're going to give up a lot of yards, a lot of points. It's going to have to be the best of the best from our offense that game when it comes down to it. But I do think what Philly showed though in this game is a very a strong defensive front can make the Titans look pretty bad, because when you can bottle up Henry, there's no other options for them.
I don't remember the stat, but Henry is by far and away the leader in rush yards after contact. And that's not what you want to do. I mean, you can only sustain that type of play for so long. You're going to have to be able to get some type of push up on there in that front. We know that was one of the things Philadelphia came into the season beefing up, was that front. They went and drafted Jordan Davis, and during the season they picked up Sue and another player, I'm blanking on his name right now, but they know that's very important to win the trenches on both sides of the football. Their offensive line is phenomenal. They have one of the best run offenses in the league, and their defensive line is starting to come around. I mean, if they can do it against Tennessee, I'm going to feel confident that they can do it against a lot of teams going forward. So Philadelphia looking dominant, looking like they should be that number one seed in the NFC. Jalen Hurts was 7 yards off of his career high for pass yards. He had 380 in the game. So, I mean, like we said, a heavy run team, but they did it through the air this game. And A.J. Brown looked like, y'all motherfuckers let Batman go, and it's a big mistake. I'm coming back to Gotham City and fucking shit up.
Yeah, this you could tell it was personal for him.
I got to mention my Roll Tide brother had 5 catches for 102 and a touchdown as well, Devontae Smith. We unfortunately weren't able to get into the college football playoff, but we will all be rooting against Ohio State, I can imagine.
Oh, I will be. That's so. They do not deserve to be there.
I hope Georgia smacks that ass, man. Anything else in this Philly game before we move to the afternoon?
No, I got nothing.
So we had the Los Angeles Chargers on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders. Chargers, I mentioned earlier, they fall to 500. They are now 6-6, and they are the 9th seed in the AFC. Vegas, I mean, like I said, there's only 2 teams that are mathematically eliminated. They still got a chance right now. This defense has stepped up. Question mark coming into the season. Max Crosby's playing his ass off. You had him in your DPOY combo. Chandler Jones has been playing better as of late. But Derek Carr, Devonta Adams, they're solidifying themselves as one of the best duos in the league, one of the best connections in the league. Josh McDaniels only giving up 20 points to this Chargers offense. We know they're dealing with a lot of injuries in LA. I say it every week, but they still got Herbert back there, and to hold this team to 20 points, one of those kind of being a garbage touchdown. It was with around 8 minutes left, but really didn't have much effect on the game, was a pass to Keenan Allen. I don't know. Vegas looked very impressive this game.
Yeah, I mean, I picked them to win as well, because I just, with this Chargers team, it's just, I really am starting to feel like the coaching out there is starting to hold back Justin Herbert, especially from a play call standpoint. Like, it's just, he's so limited because of his coaching, and it's becoming frustrating. Like, Staley's got to get the boot sooner or later, because it's just not working. And obviously, the amount of draft picks and whatever they've invested in this O-line for the Chargers, they're a bad O-line. Like, I think maybe Rashawn Slater's out for the year or something like that.
I believe so.
But
and Lindsey, I think, if he's not.
But it's just, the O-line play is so bad. I mean, every time you turn on the film or turn on the game, it's just so evident. Like Herbert can't do much behind that O-line, and between the coaching and the O-line, he's just being very limited right now. And I mean, yeah, he put up 335 pass yards, but at the same time, there's only one touchdown. He took 5 sacks. And so it's just this team, it's frustrating because you know what they're capable of, and we're just not getting it this year.
Yeah.
So that's the frustrating part. But it was nice, I think coming in this game, Chandler Jones had half a sack, and he finally got 3 yesterday. So,
he does that shit every year.
They signed him to do this. We haven't been seeing him up until now, but we finally got a Chandler Jones sighting. So that was good news. That was good to see. But yeah, and my other point is just Devontae Adams, just how ridiculous this dude is. I mean,
it's him and JJ.
Like, you watch Devontae, and he's still that dude. Like, I'm glad he's out of our division.
I could believe that.
I mean, yeah, it's just I think I don't know. I think you can chalk this up to being a slow start for the Raiders, kind of like a whole new coach, new system. We're just kind of getting our feet wet this year, learning each other, feeling each other out. I think we'll see a much improved team next year.
I agree. This Chargers team is probably one of the 5 most underwhelming teams of the season so far for me. We've mentioned the other ones in weeks prior, but 20 points, Justin Herbert. Like you said, the yards were there, similar to the Mike White situation, though. It doesn't really matter if you can't capitalize and put that ball in the end zone. So, Raiders, very impressive W. Moving on to, I don't know who they play next week, but week 14, I don't know. They're going to have a nice balanced attack because coming into the season, a concern I have for the Chargers, you mentioned their offensive line. My concern for them was the defensive line, and Jordan Davis went a pick or two before or after they took their pick, and I thought that was somebody that someone I had them taking in my mock draft. And Josh Jacobs really lit this team up in the run game, and he's been on a tear this year so far. He looks like a top 5 back in the league. Chargers really aren't able to do anything in any aspect of the game besides make the pass yards look pretty.
Yeah, I think if I might be mistaken, but I think I read today that Josh Jacobs is on pace to lead the league in rushing now. But I could
That's
be
how
wrong.
You want to do your contract here.
But yeah, I think he's showing what he's capable of, and I don't know. I just think, yeah, I think both these teams will be improved next year, but I definitely like the Raiders' chances of being much more improved than the Chargers being much more improved. Especially if Staley's still there.
You have to figure they'll probably finish around 8, 9, 9, or 8. That's not going to get you fired. So
no,
it's not going to get you in the playoffs. You'll be the 8th.
Well, look how long Zimmer lasted because of it.
Well, that dude in Dallas too. What's his name? The Clapper, who's on NBC now. Jason Garrett.
Oh, Jason Garrett. Yeah. Yep.
Seattle at Los Angeles. Stafford was placed on IR. And the Rams still put up a good fight, though. They put up 23 points in this game. Even though their starting quarterback had 2 interceptions, he was pulled out towards the end of the game. This one came down to a Geno Smith fourth quarter drive, game-winning drive, touchdown pass to DK Metcalf, pulling this one out 27-23 in the NFC West battle. Seattle desperately needed this game to stay alive in the playoff race and to stay alive if they want to be the number 1 seed in this NFC West going forward. Good game from Geno, 25-39, 367, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. K9 did leave the game with the injury. I don't know how serious that's going to be, but didn't really seem like they needed him in this one. Lockett, DK, both went over 100 yards, both had a touchdown. Fant had a big game as well and a touchdown for himself as well. Seattle's offense is clicking, but the defense is going to be the question.
No.
I don't know, this last month and show of the season. 23 points to this Rams team is unacceptable.
Bro, I think if Seattle gets into the playoffs, it's just they're gonna
shoot out.
They're gonna look back and be like, our defense just didn't play up to the standard and what we expected. I just don't know if I don't know, man. There's a lot of I mean, this Vikings Seahawks might be a great first round matchup.
I couldn't tell you who'd win that game.
I couldn't either, because it's a lot of similarities.
It really is. Defense is a huge weakness, and both offenses have immense firepower. Who do you have more trust in, Geno or Kirk? That's a good question.
And what defense comes up with the big play?
Yeah, it's not Brisker, but the guy, the rookie for Seattle, I forget his name. He has 6 picks now. So I think Thornton might be his name. So, by the way, that pick Harrison had, just running around for 100 yards and they handed it back to Patrick Peterson. I was like, you guys, you're winning this game. You don't take these fuckers serious right now. You're playing playground football out here. Lateral and interceptions in the fucking first quarter. I'm like, what is this nonsense? But yeah, Seattle got a big win. Definitely something that they needed. Rams, I don't know what they're going to do going forward. If I was Aaron Donald, I'd be asking for a trade this offseason because my quarterback's out. My offense is limited. My offensive line is limited. My defense finally actually played decent, but I wasn't playing to be a part of that.
For me, I just think that last year was the year they went all in. They wanted that Super Bowl last year really bad. They got it. And now it's kind of like...
It happens. Is it worth it?
I mean, it's a complete failure this year. I mean, there's no cookie cutter way to, it's just bad. I don't know. And the way they've set themselves up for like draft time the next few years, it's just like, dude, all these draft picks traded away, you're bringing in big contracts, re-signing the big contracts. Like,
you're strapped.
I just see this team, like, they're going to have to go through a rebuild sooner than later.
Soon. I mean, yeah, we can talk about that tomorrow. Moving on, we have Miami at San Francisco. We thought might be the game of the week. We had Tua and the Dolphins score on their opening play, 75-yard touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down with a broken foot, and from there we thought Miami would run away from this one. And in a way they did. They ran away with their hands on their ass cheeks because they just got their fucking ass spanked. San Francisco wins this game 33-17, dominant defensive performance. They showed why they were number one across the board in all those categories. Tua didn't help himself. He was missing throws. When he was, they were getting picked off, taken the other way. Man, this Miami team looked bad, man. They really did. We thought the loss of Armstead would serve a purpose in this game, and it really did. The defensive line was wreaking havoc on Tua. They got to him a couple of times. The linebackers just fly around. They don't miss tackles. The defensive backfield is able to stick with Tyreek and Waddle and those guys. Just impressive, man. We know Garoppolo's down. We know coming into the season he was the backup quarterback. Trey Lance is down, so now they're going with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft out of Iowa State. He played well. 25 of 37, 210, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Kind of like how we said earlier. San Francisco is one of these teams who can get these guys in here. They can have a good stat line. May not be the most effective, and they may not win them games, but this one ended up winning the game with that combination of that dominant defense. So what'd you think of this Miami offense versus San Francisco defense?
San Fran's defense, man. I mean, no matter if Jimmy's out, Trey Lance is out, whatever, the defense alone makes them a dangerous team. Just how well they play. I mean, they're fast, physical, fly around, make plays. They're going to give teams fits no matter if Purdy's starting or Jimmy G's starting. Like, they just got to have Purdy go out there and manage the game to the best of his ability, make completions, don't turn over the ball, and you're going to have a shot to beat anyone still. But my high expectations for the 49ers kind of took a hit with Jimmy G going out, because obviously I think that's their perfect guy to lead them to the promised land. I don't see it happening now, just because I just think Purdy will kind of handcuff them too much. And, as good as that defense is, I think that, if you can at least hit 1 or 2 big plays against them, when you're on offense, it makes your world a lot more easy. But for me, I just think this was a big test for Tua, and I think overall you can pretty much say he failed. I mean, he didn't look comfortable. all the MVP talks can be put to bed now because he showed why he was questioned after last season, even, and coming into this season. Like in big games, big spots like this against a defense like that, you're expected to go out there and put up good numbers, put up points. I mean, you got Tyreek, you got Waddle. It just, I know it's a team game and the team lost. It wasn't all on Tua, but at the end of the day, he didn't look like, the quarterback we've been talking about all season long.
Nah, a lot of that was on Tua. A lot was on the run game as well. You've been mentioning that they haven't been able to get that going. And that was pretty costly in this game as well. They were putting a lot of pressure on Tua. He just wasn't able to get the job done. San Francisco looks good, man. You mentioned Purdy might be holding them back. I think this is such a unique situation because Shanahan just finds a way to make these guys successful. He makes it seem like the starting quarterback never was injured or never was not a part of this group. And if you're going to have a quarterback in here who's not your starter or maybe isn't as talented as a Garoppolo, to have guys like Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, and CMC around them, I mean, that's a perfect situation. So they'll have time to figure this out before the playoffs start. They'll have a good 5 weeks to get shit situated. So they know Garoppolo's out for the rest of the year. They don't have to worry about if he's going to come back or not. So Purdy's his guy. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder. So I'm interested to see what this team does going forward.
I think it's a perfect spot in the season for that to happen if it is going to happen, and to be a surefire like season-ending injury. I mean, you don't want to be battling this dilemma of when's Jimmy G going to be back, or do you think you're going to start this week still, or all that. I mean, now the team can put their trust and faith into Purdy. He can kind of build some confidence up, and now once we're heading into the playoffs, like first you got to go secure that division crown, and then next step is to get in the playoffs and make some noise. And I think I still like the Niners a lot, especially it's really because of the defense. I know they got playmakers on offense too, but I mean, this is a defense who can completely dominate a Cowboys team or even a Eagles team, I think. And if they get one or two, turnovers or one or two defensive scores, like this team is more than capable of shutting down those two teams who are arguably the top two in the NFC right now.
Yeah, like we said in the playoffs last year when they played the Packers, they big boy balled them, and they play the best big boy ball in the league, and nobody can really do it like them on both lines of scrimmage. So they're going to be in all these games as long as that quarterback takes care of the football.
Oh, for sure. And the most fun thing about this Niners team is they literally don't fear a soul. Like they literally go into every game thinking they're going to wipe the floor with you. And a lot of times they do. But, I mean, you got to catch them on a really bad day because they don't make too many mistakes and they're really well coached. And I think they live for the playoff atmosphere.
Remember, the Rams beat them in the playoffs last year, so they're not going to be around this year. Someone else is going to have to do it, and they haven't been there. 49ers have, so that matters a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
Our last afternoon game, we had Kansas City on the road at Cincinnati. Probably the best game of the day. One of the few teams that can go at Kansas City, though. Beating them 3 times in a row. The last 2 times, the exact same score, 24-27. We know last year in the playoffs, Chiefs looked like they had this one in the bag, but really shit the bed in the second half, propelling Cincinnati all the way to the Super Bowl. Cincinnati was physical, held Mahomes under 225 pass yards. I think that's something that they are really effective in doing is they are physical and they are fast, something that the Chiefs are really not used to seeing. And something a lot of teams aren't used to seeing. And if they are, they're not good at handling it. This Bengals team is on a great run right now, similar to how they did last season. A stop by the Bengals defense and a conversion to run out the clock pretty much sealed this game for Cincinnati in the fourth quarter. It was either a pass to Jamar Chase or Higgins, either one of those guys. I mean, 2 of the more reliable receivers in the league, and Joe Burrow trusts those guys with his life, it seems like. The Cincinnati offense is clicking even without their starting running back, Joe Mixon. Samaje Perine did have a big day, 21 rushes for 106 yards. This offensive line seems to be picking up, getting better every week after they started really shaky, especially week 1 against Pittsburgh. On the other side, A big fumble by Kelsey pretty much cost them this game. I mean, it was going back and forth the whole game. Chiefs probably going to leave this arena thinking that they were the better team, probably for the second time in a row losing to this Bengals team. But that's just not the way the ball bounces sometimes. You lose this one. Team did rush, okay, 25 rushes for over 130 yards and a touchdown. But ultimately, 24 points probably won't be getting the job done against the Cincinnati team going forward.
It's just tough, man. I think, if the Chiefs go out and they have a costly turnover or two, they're a team you can beat. They really thrive on going toe-to-toe, not making mistakes. They're fast-paced on offense, obviously. They have quick strikes. But for some reason, Joe Burrow and this Bengals team just have their number. I mean, I think this was the 7th straight loss for the Chiefs at Cincinnati. So they have had no luck in Cincinnati. So, yeah, it's just, I think it's just one of those things where right now Cincinnati just has their number, and it's kind of like one of those demons that Kansas City has to overcome at some point. And whenever we get these two teams squaring off, it's going to be, get your popcorn ready type of game. This game in the playoffs, or the Kansas City Chiefs and the Bills, figure to be, two high quality games. I mean, shoot, even Bengals Bills game would be fun to watch. But
yeah, those are hands down the 3 best teams.
Yeah, so I think the AFC side of the playoffs looks a lot more fun than NFC. I'll say that, but yeah, I just the Chiefs tend to have some of a couple of these games every year where they just barely lose, and it's mainly because they beat themselves. That's really what I look at it as. But Jamar Chase coming back, like I said, is a huge, huge boost for this team. I mean, that man is their clear number one. And anytime he's in the game, I mean, him and Burrow have a connection that, just continues to grow. I don't know. I really like this Bengals team. I think they can make another run at the Super Bowl. It's just crazy to think about, because how they started the season, you're like, asking yourself what's going on with this team. But I don't know. As long as the offensive line holds up and the defense plays well, I mean, Burrow can take this team to all sorts of heights.
8-2 in their last 10. You mentioned heights, which is funny, because I want to say the podcast with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce is called New Heights or something along those lines. Yep. Not a free plug. Anyway, the first time I listened, I told you they had Jalen Hurts on. This was before the Washington Commanders game. You remember what happened to Philly that game. They ended up losing that game. Last week I listened, they had Patrick Mahomes on. So I was thinking, are they going to lose the Cincinnati game because Mahomes went on the podcast? So something I'm going to keep my eye on going forward. Both times the quarterbacks went on there. Both times the quarterbacks lost. So, Lamar, don't show your black ass on that podcast anytime soon.
Oh, man.
Sunday Night Football. We had Indy at Dallas. This was really a good 3 quarters. I know this wasn't good for you, though, in that 4th quarter. Colts converted on the 4th down, made the game 21-19 after a failed 2-point conversion. A few plays later, 15-play, 90-yard drive was capped off. That was the same drive, actually. Excuse me. After that, Dallas sealed this one pretty much. They had a touchdown to Gallup. They had a defensive touchdown, making it 19-34, but they weren't done. They ended up scoring 33 unanswered in the 4th quarter, making the final score 19-54. The offense was clicking, but similar to San Francisco, this defense was dominant, man. Matt Ryan should retire. He looked bad. I think he had 3 interceptions. He was sacked a couple times. This Indianapolis offense just wasn't able to do anything. The defense was not able to stop whatever Dallas was throwing at them. Yeah, they were in good field position a lot of the time due to some turnovers, but you still got to man up. Hold these guys to 3. 19-54. Dallas has 2 35-plus point victories in the past few weeks. Very impressive from this Cowboys team.
Yeah, no doubt. Their defense is elite. It truly is. Not much else to say about it. And Dallas, they leaned on that run game heavily last night, and it really worked. They didn't have to do much in the pass game, really. CeeDee Lamb, he continues to have good games. I think the past 3 or 4 have been really good. He's continuously finding the end zone lately. I don't
Debo
know.
Samuel type.
Yeah, and I think, I expected it to be a blowout like this, but when it was 21-19 at the end of the third quarter, I was like, oh shit, this is a good game. And I didn't really pay much attention after that, and then I look back and it's 54-19. I'm like, holy fuck, what happened?
That's funny. I think CD had that big catch at the end of the third quarter where he ran somebody over at the 3. I said, Dallas is going to win this game. I think I turned over, let my eyelids get a little heavy at that point, woke up, was like, holy shit. At least they covered for me.
Is OBJ going to go to Dallas and ruin a good thing?
Why would he ruin it?
They don't need him.
Who needs him? We do.
Shoot. You're a team who needs him, but I'm saying just before the last 3, maybe 4 games.
You want Gallup to be your number 2? I would like OBJ as my number 2. They do have Noah Brown as well. They have some decent weapons. The loss of Amari Cooper does not seem to be as big of a loss as I thought it would be. I will say that.
No, I'm not saying like they shouldn't sign him or anything, because he's going to help whoever he goes to. What I'm saying though is like Dallas is clicking at the right time. They're getting a lot of camaraderie. They're getting a lot of gelling at the right time, and I think the receivers are really stepping up. Obviously, you got a quality tight end, Dalton Schultz. CeeDee Lamb's really coming on, but I mean, Michael Gallup is right now. He's just like truly starting to get healthy from that injury he went down with.
Yeah,
and I think he's so like with that factored in. It's like I really would trust him to be my number 2. Obviously, you add OBJ in, and like the more I keep thinking about OBJ, though, it's just like how this process has gone on. It's kind of reminded me of like LeBron's taking his talents to Miami speech, like just
front running.
I'm not knocking OBJ. Like I like OBJ. What I'm saying is though, you've been injury prone now for however long. You had a great end of the year last year, but you're not Jerry Rice, bro. Like let's cut the shit. Like who knows how well you're gonna even come in and help Dallas if that's who you sign with. You're not going to just all of a sudden go to a team and they're winning the Super Bowl because you signed there. So like, I'm just kind of sick and tired of the charades we've been playing with OBJ all season long, because he's been acting like he's like this bona fide number 1 star receiver in the NFL, and he's going to put the next team he goes to over the top. And I just don't. I mean, you got a long line of injury history now, same ACL tear twice. Like, you got to prove you can stay on the field first.
Yeah, he would just be a luxury to this team, I suppose. I guess I would like him as a number 2. I think CD has solidified himself as a number 1, even though he may not be a top tier number 1 yet. I think he's more of a Debo Samuel type, more of a catch after the run guy. Doesn't have the cleanest hands, doesn't have the cleanest routes, but he is for sure a playmaker. And being a playmaker, there's no other number you'd want to wear for the Cowboys than 88. So it makes a lot of sense that this offense is clicking, given that the weapons that they have. But OBJ would definitely be nice over there. I think a few other teams could use him a little more, but that's who he's been flirting with for a long time now. It's Dallas, Buffalo.
I think it's if it's not Buffalo, it's Dallas. If it's not Dallas, it's Buffalo. I think at this point, for me, if I'm in OBJ's shoes, like, I think what he's trying to do is play like the long game and try to get like a multi-year deal out of a team, which Dallas is probably the biggest, team to be able to do that for you right now. I mean, I don't think Buffalo's going to come in offering you a multi-year deal, especially with the weapons they got already in Diggs and Davis and McKenzie. I mean, shoot, they would be loaded with receivers if he went there. But at the same time, I think we all kind of know by this point he's going to go to Dallas. He's going to try to be that number 2 alongside CD. I mean, but
Zeke looks
good for
good too. I'll just say that real quick.
yeah, Zeke. I mean, he doesn't. He's definitely lost a step, I think, but he
Yeah,
runs hard, and I mean, he gets
better
those
than he has the
hard
past few years,
yards.
though.
So I like the duo of Pollard and Zeke a lot. It really the biggest. I always say it though, the biggest things that frighten me about Dallas shitting the
Big
bed is
Mike.
McCarthy and even Dak. Like, I don't think Dak has that gene in him where he can go out and dominate a game and be clutch at the same time. Like,
When we get to the playoffs, we're going to rank the quarterbacks that we have the most faith in, and he'll be 12, 13, or 14 probably.
and when I talk about OBJ going in there and screwing things up, like, it just adds another big name to Dak's mental. And I wonder how that's going to fluster him, wondering, okay, we just signed OBJ. I got to get him the ball this many times. I got to still get it to CD. I got to get to Gallup. I got to get it to Brown, like Schultz. Like, sometimes that can fuck with the quarterback's mental where they're trying to spread it around in their head and they can't do it on the field the way they wanted to. And then it just causes friction and all that shit. So that's what I was meaning by it, but not saying that's going to happen or anything. But with Dak, I just don't trust his mental.
You think OBJ should go home? Not home, but his first home in the NFL.
New York. That's when teams came. I think when the 4 or 5 teams came out originally, who was on his list or whatever, and Giants were. I was actually rooting for that because I think he benefits that team a lot more than he does any other team.
I'd love to see some more reverse passes to Saquon for touchdowns. That was a good time, man. I don't care if it was Eli.
And I think
Daniel Jones is better than Eli at that point.
But I think at the same time, I think OBJ might be a little hesitant to go and do that because if he does do that, he's from jump their number one receiver. And I don't know if he wants that type of pressure.
I mean, unless you want to keep Slayton as the one, but as far as by recognition and probably ability at this point, he probably would be the number one. So, yeah, that makes sense if he doesn't want to be that number one guy and have the number one DB on him and the defense is keying on him, because then you're not going to be that successful, and then you're going to be looked at as a bust or a disappointment. And as opposed to last year, you're number 2 and you almost got Super Bowl MVP. So, which one do you want to go with?
And, I don't know, man. I just don't know if Prescott can... I don't know if he can make OBJ look good like Matt Stafford made him look good. Not saying it was all Matt Stafford who made him look good. Obviously, OBJ had a great year. What I'm saying, though, is like something about the pairing with Dak Prescott kind of frightens me. I just don't trust Dak that well to have a load of talent around him and to thrive with it. Like, some guys just aren't able to do that.
That makes sense. It's a fair point. I feel the same way. Almost how they said Baker was affected by the Odell Beckham scenario, that he was keyed in on him and not really going through his progressions, trying to give him the ball because of his persona and his personality and his name and all that shit. So I don't know if Dak's going to be able to separate the two. He did throw to Amari a lot last year. Now he's throwing to CD a lot. I mean,
right, and he does well with a very solidified number one option. But when you get multiple weapons in there, I mean, this is going to be like 5 heads to feed along with your running backs. So it's like everyone in that offense is looking to be able to touch the ball. So what I'm saying is just like with Dak, I mean, with things clicking right now, it's just you throw OBJ in there. Now he's got to get up to speed with the offense. He gets up to speed with the offense. He gets thrown in the lineup. Then, I mean, I don't know, bro. I just, like you said, with Amari and Lamb there, Lamb's numbers weren't as good as they are now.
No, he was the 2, which makes sense. But I think Dak does a lot better spreading the ball around than trying to key in on that one guy. Is kind of what I was getting at. So,
yeah,
I mean, we'll see. There's teams on the board: Buffalo, New York, Baltimore, Dallas. I would like to see him in the Jets. I know that's probably not a team on his radar, but
no,
decent 3-headed monster.
What do you? Jerry Jones is whining and dining him as we speak.
Well, he probably was doing that already because I heard OBJ got kicked off the plane for being a little inebriated. So maybe a little bit too much wine and dining.
Oh man.
But that's it for me. Hour and a half. This went too long.
Yeah, I'm good.
No update, I guess, because my phone's not cooperating. But 7-3.
Well, let's see.
New Orleans is up. Second quarter,
okay.
5 minutes left. So, who'd you pick in this game? Tampa?
I picked Tampa.
I think I picked New Orleans and had time on 2 games below 500. So,
yeah, you did.
I'll need this for my pride and for my money. So, let's go Saints. But I'm good, bro. I'll holler at you tomorrow.
All right, bro.
All right, appreciate y'all. Peace.